Should we trust the government when they tell us to stay inside the walls that protect us from giant cannibalistic monsters? Or should we instead seek our freedom no matter the cost of that newfound knowledge? We're going to be finding out today on Systematic Geekology. We are the Priest of the Geeks. I am your host, Christian Ashley, on this dual YouTube and podcast episode for you all. I'm having a ton of fun. Like we've already had some pre-gaming heading on for this discussion. It's been a lot of great enjoyment on everyone's part here. So I am, of course, joined by my co-partner in crime, the co-leader of the rebellion against Joshua, Elizabeth Payne. Clyde, how are you doing, Payne?
I'm pretty well. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. And we have, of course, the greatest Tolkien scholar of all time, that will put Tolkien himself to shame. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
Feeling pretty good. You know, Christopher Tolkien is dead now, so of course I have risen to take his place as the #1 Tolkien scholar, as Christian said. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
Excellent. And how could we have this episode possibly without the greatest co-host of all time, the podcasting titan himself, TJ Blackwell? How you doing, TJ?
Great. Tired. Clumsy. Thank you for asking.
Tired, clumsy. Excellent.
He just busted stuff with his muscles.
Yeah.
And now that we have these great titans of systematic geekology, I'm going to ask you all, what have you been geeking out on?
Valorant.
Okay. New season?
I don't know. I just started. Love Valorant. Great game. It's like Counter-Strike, but good.
Okay, next up.
So if you like Pokemon Go, they released a new game similar, but not really, called Pokemon Sleep, where you monitor your sleep and you catch Pokemon and feed Snorlax. So that's pretty fun.
I'm going to have to download that.
Do it.
Yeah,
I will. And I am geeking out on some Tolkien stuff. I was just finished a book called Splintered Light, which is by a Tolkien scholar named Verlin Flieger. If you want to get a deep dive into the Silmarillion, highly recommend.
And me, I just finished the main story for Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts. I'm now on Riku's side of things, so going through that right now, trying to platinum the whole game. I've never done that before. I've never had the patience to, but I'm going to get it done now. We're not here to talk about Kingdom Hearts, so Will, you can put your glass down. We're going to be talking, of course, about Attack on Titan. Now, this is a huge series. For those of you not in the know, it's also a series that has a ton of spoilers we'll be talking about today. So if you're interested in getting into it, I would recommend that for now you guys just skip this episode and come back once you completed it. Unless you're someone like me who really doesn't care about spoilers and you can just get into stuff. I mean, do what you want. Like, you're the one listening. You get to choose. But for everyone out there who stayed with us and they don't know what Attack on Titan is, guys, can you help me explain what it is? Who wants to go first?
I can go. So,
go TJ.
Attack on Titan. Well, we get dropped into this world full of giant, naked, neutered, cannibalistic humans. And we follow the story of Eren Yeager in his quest to, free himself from the reigns of giant, naked cannibals. Basically.
So relatable. Anyone else?
I like the giant naked cannibals to its description of Titans. And I think Eren is, as an anime young boy protagonist, is surrounded by friends who also join him on the journey to free themselves of neutered, naked giants who are cannibals. And I think that I'd also say that they fight against government conspiracy, as well as we get to see a anime protagonist become like a Walter White anti-hero type of person. Yeah.
Yeah, the series as it goes on definitely gets a lot deeper than most. Because this kind of starts out like it could be a shonen, and then it becomes clear that it is not.
Thing, you have anything you want to add before we go on?
No. I mean, I think they covered it.
Right,
I love Levi. That's about it.
Yeah, good answer. Good answer.
Amen.
Of course.
All right, so everyone, how were you all introduced to the show? And we'll go in reverse order this time. Pang, you go.
So I just started watching it on Netflix, and my husband was very concerned for my mental health. as literally naked cannibal giants or biting people in half and just
Rip
crushing
Marco.
people. And then it's just I love the animation, like the eyes whenever they like feel distressed and they just have the lines and like the big bags and stuff. It makes it so serious. And this is actually one of the few. I wouldn't really classify this as horror anime, but I know some people might think kind of horror with the grotesque and whatnot. But this is one of the few animes that has crept in my dreams and like has given me like a nightmare. I've dreamt of titans attacking before.
Oof.
It was
Yeah, there's
not
definitely some horror
enjoyable.
elements in here.
Yeah, but this was like, and I've seen some horror animes, but this is like one of the few who encroached on my dreams. So pretty marking.
All right, Nick.
Yeah, this came out. The anime came out when I was in college, and so my sister is a huge anime person, and so anytime there is a new anime on the scene, my sister usually texts me about it. And she's like, sends me a meme or a video, and I'm like, "What is this?" And she's like, "What's wrong with you? Go find this immediately." And so I did, and devoured season 1. That I think it was my junior year of college, and just destroyed it. And then, of course, here we are 10 years later, not even having the second part of season 4. And so it's just, painfully waiting for the new content to come out. But yeah.
Jay.
Yeah, so this is one of the very few things that I remember like vividly as to like how I was introduced to it. Because it was 2013, my freshman year of high school, and you're all old, and
Jerk.
it was
That's when I graduated college.
yeah. So
That's when I got married.
I was 13 years old. So we're in ROTC because free gym credit, and my friend Cameron, current roommate, was like, I was talking about Titan AE, which if you've never seen is a pretty
Excellent
good sci-fi like early CG animation movie. I love it. But I was talking about Titan AE, and he was like, "Is that related to Attack on Titan?" And I was like, "What is Attack on Titan?" And we're walking like up the bleachers to run a lap on top of the gym, and I really thought so for a minute. I was talking about it. I was like, "Yeah, no, it's possible." It was not, and then I watched Attack on Titan and kept up and started reading the manga, and became the Attack on Titan guy because I was reading the manga. So if people had questions, they would come to me and be like, "Hey, what does this mean?" I was like, "Read the book." But it was kind of like my re-entry into a slightly less casual anime watcher.
Yeah, for me, I had heard of it before what I'm about to say released, but I hadn't gotten into it. It's like just that bare minimum of, wait, that's what it's about? No, I don't know yet. But then Team 4-Star released their abridged episode for Attack on Titan. And unfortunately, they only got to do one because the copyright strikes came down hard because Japan doesn't understand free use and parody rights over here. And I was blown away with how funny it was. And thinking, oh, this is obviously not a funny show. Well, let me watch the actual show. Watched it on Netflix. Fell in love with it immediately. Kept going, and I think around the second or third season, like, I can't wait. I have to just keep reading the manga. Got caught to the manga. I have to wait, like with everyone else, and then got to the ending, and waiting on the ending for the anime right now.
Yeah,
So,
can we have a brief side tangent on your favorite abridged series?
oh gosh, I mean, the easy answer is DBZA.
I'm a big Sword Art abridged fan.
Oh, that's a great one too.
Yeah,
they enhanced a very terrible story, in my opinion, to actually being funny and good.
yeah.
Oh yeah, any adaptation of Sword Art Online is going to be better than Sword Art Online.
Yeah, fully agree.
Sorry, you SAO fans out there.
All one of you. It's my friend Simon.
Dang, I think I know the answer to this. Have you ever watched an abridged series?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so moving on to our actual discussion. Let us all, just as quick as possible, go through the basics of how Attack on Titan starts from the political scene of things, since we are doing a primarily political episode on it. And then let's get into how things go later on. Because, as I said earlier, there's some huge twists coming along the way. So, who wants to go first and tell us, like, politics wise, how do things start in AOT?
Secrecy. Always secrecy. And so I think when I think of the politics that start, besides like the wall system, because the inner wall you are kind of like the higher class you are. And so I feel like that's the most introductory of politics because they have the class and social system that you learn more about.
Yeah, I feel like that's really all we get for a little while is like you learn what the politics are like geographically. Because, you know, you have the three walls, then you have the cities on the outside of the walls. And it's just kind of implied at first that if you live out here, they don't really care about you. You're just human, so you get to live in the wall.
Yeah, you're not Titan food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, we start off with Eren and Mikasa and Armin as children, right? And so our understanding of the political stuff is very from a child's perspective. And of course, it grows as they get older. But it's this kind of like, we already know that the government, as governments tend to be, very secret, not the right stuff's going on, maybe some corruption. But I think there's still a sort of like admiration for military, you know, agents of the state type of a thing where they're like, oh, we want to be members of the army and stuff like that. And so I think we see that at the beginning where this healthy skepticism, but also like an admiration for what the government is trying to do for the people, quote unquote. And then later on, it gets all upturned.
Yeah, and you get like more hints of it when the other scouts are talking about like, or scout recruits are like, yeah, I want to be part of the military police, so I get to live nice and comfy inside the wall, protecting the elites.
Oh yeah, but we start really. We see it early on when, you know, the walls are broken into and the refugees have to flood into the other ones. And then there's that scene where a bunch of those refugees have been sent to like, oh, we're going to regain the wall back from the Titans. And they're really just being sent out to be slaughtered because they can't afford to keep all those people fed in that area. So Armin loses his grandfather and more people die off. And they're some of the lucky few who remain behind and are still alive and capable. And then as Eren becomes the Titan for the first time, we start seeing the military branch, how it works, and the politics behind that of like, oh, but we're just going to execute. He's just a Titan. We have to execute him. Then no, we can use him and make him our own. Like, obviously, Levi comes from a very good place of we should be using this. And you have other people like, yeah, we can totally use him to make things better for us up here. And then from there, we get into the whole mystique behind the actual king instead of the fake king we're shown originally. Like, how do you guys unpack that?
Yeah, so I always kind of thought about it as like a shadow government oligarchy type thing until it was like, oh, what? No, okay, there is a real king. He doesn't do a lot, in my opinion, but you know, he's there. He's the king. They listen to him. He just doesn't do that, but he could. So I don't know. I kind of got lost when it got really political. For like that, it was like a year and a half in the manga. I feel like where it was just thriller, like dramatic, like House of Cards with giant cannibals.
Yeah.
So in that area, I was getting kind of lost in the sauce for sure, because I was not politically poignant enough to really understand a lot of what was going on at the time, because I was 17.
I was about to say you were like 16, 17 when
Yeah.
second season, third season.
Youngin.
You know, and I think the shadow government is a good way to describe what was going on at the beginning. And I think there's like this understanding of like hierarchy, but like the poor are supporting the hierarchy, and as far as like food wise and economically, right? It's this kind of traditional like serfdom type of a thing. And then of course, you know, they basically are human shields for the rich people and stuff like that. And then even with the religion too, like the religion of the wall, like I think the general populace, there's like a mix between skepticism of the religious establishment, as well as people who are like, oh, as long as we just like worship the walls and stuff, we'll be fine, and blasphemy is why we're dying. And then of course that very quickly, as we get to like the latter half of the first season, starts to like deteriorate as we learn more. And as like you said, more people are seeing them being sacrificed for the rich and the king, fake king.
Thank you. Everything you want to add?
No, I think it was good. I'm waiting for us to get to the point of like everything was a lie, because I feel like one day we're
Yeah.
going to get to that point in our government. It's like everything we known is a lie. Cool.
Well, let's get there. We have the false king we see at the very beginning of the series, and we find out no, it's actually Krista's dad.
Yeah, Rod Rice.
Who is not. No, she herself is not named Krista. Her name is actually Historia. She is part of that royal lineage herself. And then we'll get to how that will of the king works later on in this discussion. But the idea of, well, we need to repress things and keep people inside the wall. So anyone who attempts to break out, we're going to kill. So Aaron right now, you have to eat Aaron right now and kill him. And it's going to stop everything from happening. And let's go there real quick. Like, how do we feel about how that was handled?
Skill issue on Rod's part.
Yeah, I
Okay.
feel like Aaron should not have been as hard to take down as he was. Because
Disagree.
he was just really? I feel
He's
like he's
him.
just yeah, but I feel like if more planning, they could have gotten him like cornered easier.
But like, did you finish? the
I
manga?
no. See, I'm caught up to the
wouldn't have happened.
anime. See, I'm speaking on my thoughts, TJ, so let me have my thoughts.
Okay.
That's right, TJ.
Stop
Yeah.
trying to control my thoughts.
Yeah, they're wrong though.
Mm-hmm. Just like you are. Anyway. Wow, I don't ever argue with TJ. This feels wrong. But right at the same time. But
Yeah.
the more I was talking about was like the fact that everyone is so ignorant and they think that they're the only like human race. Like they think like the whole society has been built on a lie. They don't know where the Titans come from, and they come from another area. So like these people who are living pretty much kind of not the Stone Ages, but like super like not developed at all. And there's pretty much like an early England across the pond, if you will. And they can have photographs, they have like carriages and whatnot. And like I wouldn't know how to take that. It would almost be like, what's that that movie when everything's like MIDI or whatever, when his whole life is like a TV show and it's a lie.
Truman Show.
A
Truman Show. So I feel like it's almost like that. Like everything they ever known was a lie. And there was a whole nother civilization. They knew of them, but they didn't care about them. That's wild to me.
I think too, it's all of that with both of you, what both of you said. But I think it's also this 2,000 years of history of like, there's definitely the shadow thing going on, but there's a little more nuance too, where there's some people who've been defending it for so long that they just believe it's the way of the order of things, that even if stuff is a myth, that they've got to protect people and protect them from being eaten. And even people who are higher up who know about the whole geopolitical history before even the viewers do. Obviously those people might be a little more evil, but I think that especially at the beginning, this show shows that like, okay, even there's some sort of like governments tend to oppress and hurt people, even if under the guise of protection, or even people who are like, oh, I've been a part of this established order. It's the way things are, right? And I think that we see the will of the individual and resistance fighting for freedom right at the beginning. That shows that that's the power of like the Attack Titan, right? The Attack Titan's working on its own and like destroys everybody and goes through even till the last season too, in the last part of the manga where Eren is basically working on his own, even for for fascist dictatorship, genocidal, maniacal reasons.
Yeah, well, it's his dictatorship now, so it's okay.
So true.
Yeah. We're
Well,
Jaegerists
before we
on
get
the
there,
on Geek.
we do have to unpack some things first of how they get there, and that's what Pang was bringing up, is that they're not alone. Eren finally gets into his dad's basement and discovers the secrets. Not only is because it's Attack on Titan and cannibalism is a thing that almost everyone does. He ate his dad and has learned from his memories there and unlocked them. It's like there's a whole world out there. They're not alone, and they hate their guts, and that's why they're isolated. And we finally get from Reiner's perspective after failing to get everything he was supposed to do, going back to Marley, which is the nation that's really trying to get rid of Eldia, of the island of Paradise. Like, let's go there. Like, how do we all feel when that twist came in? Like, we see where Reiner is at.
I never liked that guy.
Oh my gosh. Did Joshua put a female filter on his face or something and like bring his bad opinions here?
How dare you?
I am getting heated right now. We're gonna have to take you off this show, my good
I
friend.
think Reiner's just like one of the best characters in the series, especially by the end.
Levi is the best character.
One of, yeah, probably. But
Let's
that
go
twist
into
was
that.
insane.
Yes.
Because I remember by that point I was already reading the manga, and to be stuck on the cliffhanger of seeing the ocean, I was like, great, awesome. And then the next chapter we start to like learn that we aren't alone, or not the next chapter, but it's pretty soon after that. It was pretty rough. It was a crazy time to be alive and reading.
Yeah, I think it's weird to
Nikki, anything you
see
wanna add?
like yeah, I think it's was super weird to see all the the new Titans pop up and seeing people that were part of the same group attack and not fully understand, where you're like, what is going on with all this? I don't get it. And when you learn that there's a whole other nation out there that's basically pulling Nazi Germany on another group of people, and it just like you said, it kind of hurt a little bit. It kind of brings a sinking feeling of these characters. Like you said, Reiner, somebody that you like, right? I know I enjoyed his character. And even what's his face, the quiet dude who's the colossal titan.
Berthold.
Bert.
Yeah. Those
No,
guys were just. Yeah.
I think I dislike Bert more than Reiner. Reiner was the one that like was having split personalities, right? I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I've like watched this.
Yeah,
Right? I was
he's
just making sure I had the right one.
From the guilt, he was manifesting different personalities inside of
Okay,
himself.
I wanted to make sure I had the right person in my head when y'all were talking about Reiner and Bert and didn't confuse them.
Yeah.
And I think
Continue.
even someone like Anity, who's a jerk, who's kind of this douchebag, like they're all likable characters, right? They're part of the same regiment. They're working together, apparently for the same cause. And then you find out all of it's a lie. And I just remember, like, because I think I was so confused when we got to that part. Towards later, we find out everything's part of like this Marleyan thing, and then to watch YouTube videos and analytical stuff online. It was just like, it was a deep loss. It was a deep loss for me. I won't lie.
Yeah, it was just like horrible to see that everything they're doing is pretty much for nothing.
Yeah,
until you realize who Eren is.
All right. You guys have anything else you want to add before we go to our next question?
Other than this being the most rewatchable series on the planet, not really. Like, I think you need to watch Attack on Titan twice.
Agreed.
That does help with a lot of things. All right. So next up, early on, we're shown the three various paths that our cadets can take, our main characters here, during their military training. Those being, in the cadets, they have the military police regiment, which is the ones who guard the king, and only the top 10 get to even apply for that position of essentially safety and not being near any of the problems. And then we have the garrison, which is essentially the people around the walls who keep it maintained. And then we have the scouts, the one Eren has been wanting to pursue this whole time, the people actually out there in the trenches, getting eaten by Titans day after day, but are actually keeping the people safe by trying to kill and like get rid of their numbers piece by piece. Like, what do we think of how these three choices, how are they portrayed within the series proper?
So, like, everyone... Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I actually have a scout cloak at my work and I forgot it, so I'm very sad. But pretty much,
Oh.
I think Nick mentioned it earlier. Military police, that's like the comfy job where you just go on the inner side of the wall. So there's 3 layers. So Titans get into the innermost wall, like it's never happened before. So the after the paycheck and the cush, and then the wall is just kind of like boring because once again, until the beginning of the episode, how many years has it been since like there was never a Titan breach? But then, even then, like with the scout regiment, you saw at the beginning of them being lazy because Titans has never attacked. And because they were being lazy, they were getting slack on their training. And so when they did go out, they would come back injured and whatnot. So no one wanted to be a scout. And no one really wanted to, besides like a few select scientists, really wanted to understand the Titans or anything like that.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's generally. I think the whole military police thing is just horrible in general because not only can like you aren't doing anything there, you're protecting rich people from nobody. Only the best 10 cadets can be military police each year. So, like, from their point of view, the best people they have are doing nothing because that's who they care about. They care about themselves. They don't care if your regular lower caste folk get eaten. They don't care at all. They want the best, and they're going to get it. But I think in the series, it's kind of seen like people do this for their own comfort. Like, if you don't want to live, working like physical labor, join the scouts, try to be military police. If you can't get military police, try to be garrison. Do not try to be scout.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add, and unless you have some commentary, Christian.
No, I think we've hit it pretty much on the nails. That idea of, yeah, sure, military police would serve a function, and that you do need to keep the people in charge safe. If there's ever a rebellion or people trying to like assassinate them, but really it's for that sense of them abusing their authority, where they're supposed to be protecting the people around them. Instead, you see them along the way just like taking money from people and beating people they don't like and say, oh, well, you're this part of the wall. You have no business being around me, the elite here. And there's that irony as well of like the best of the best is there when they should be on the front lines in the scouts, like protecting people, but instead they're seeking after their own personal safety. And I think that says a lot about people in general. And I'm pointing fingers at myself here, and that we like to be safe and content. We don't like to be in the trenches. We don't like to be in the grime. And we just want to be comfortable. And there's nothing inherently wrong with being comfortable. It's when that's the only thing we seek that it becomes a problem, like it has. They've just gotten lazy. So when Titans do come, they're like next to worthless helping anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, even the garrison too, to an extent.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Next up, we have the walls were created, we find along the way, from actual Titans as well. That's our end of first season spoiler there for you, as that's chipped away in the battle with the female Titan. Like, this idea of the walls were being created to protect the people from the threat of the Titans. They're so massive, like nothing could possibly breach them until we get to the first episode. And like people are safe. Like we have the wallism religion. It's like we got to worship the walls. The walls protect us. It's a good thing. But then we also discover along the way the leadership doesn't want people to leave. Even they really don't even want the scouts to leave to an extent, because they want to stay isolationist. Like, what can we learn from how they enforce this isolationism in the walls?
There's a great video that I watched from Wisecrack, and they did this kind of philosophical analysis of the show and the kind of the political stuff and how the walls and on Paradise are kind of structured and influenced and inspired by kind of World War II Germany, right? Lots of parallels and things like that. But there was a political philosopher named Carl Schmitt who was basically in charge of developing the political philosophy of Nazi Germany and brought in like theology to create some sort of basically Christian nationalism to integrate with the type of Nazism that Hitler and other political leaders were going for. And so in order to keep the isolation is to develop an enemy, right? Even if it's a false one, to create this machine to build up, to collect power under the guise of safety, and fighting a common enemy, which works very well psychologically, right? Lots of people still use that strategy, even in just regular everyday politics. And so the problem with that is that eventually, when there is a real threat, right, after all this redundancy and laziness, that the best are drinking wine all the time, getting fat. Even the wall guards too spend most of their time drinking. Is that when a real threat comes, whether it's was it curated by the government or not, like, people don't know what to do and people die, and it's people who are in the lower classes that quote unquote don't matter. And so eventually, we see the rise of Aaron with these other people that are part of the lower classes to kind of fight against that. Yeah,
it's like a classic dehumanize, and then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Thing.
Thumbs up.
Okay. For those of you listening and can't see the video, that was a thumbs up from Pang. Yeah, I completely agree. In that sense of, you can isolate your people, and then you can make them believe whatever you want. Because when they're not introduced to other concepts and ideas, it's easier to control. It's easier to say, hey, oh, this is the issue. We shouldn't go out because it's bad. And, well, it even works to their favor, too, because they know what Titans are. All they have to do is just look at the top of the wall and say, oh, I don't want to go out there with those things. Like, sure, I'm going to believe whatever my government says. Let me just do that. And you keep the people in line. Now, there's always going to be people fighting against that as soon as newer ideas are introduced, and that's the right thing in this situation. But it's that sense of, if I can keep you here, we can keep these ideas for us, and no one else exists anyway in their point of view, so why should I care about what's out there? And for me, studying history a lot, you get that period several times in U.S. history of isolationism versus like being basically the world cop. And like, how does America control those two things? Should they be one or the other? Should they be more nuanced there? And isolationism almost kept us out of the First World War and the Second World War. And you'll understand too, a lot of those people just didn't want people to suffer and die that were American, forgetting that there were other people who were dying and suffering. But you get the sense of, well, we shouldn't be fighting. We shouldn't be seeking that out. But you also get the sense of, well, the Nazis were rising up, the Kaiser was rising up, and pacifism isn't inherently in and of itself going to stop them. Not to say pacifism is some weak thing that nobody should ever aspire to, but there is a way you can pursue pacifism, but also want to stop people who would abuse your pacifism. And that's one of the things we learn not only from our own history, but from this, is like, if they just stay the way they are, eventually, well, the Colossal Titan got through. What's to say the next one doesn't get rid of them all?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's really a good example of Plato's cave, isn't it? Is it Plato? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this is your whole world. This is all you get to see, and we're in control of it. So there you go. It's like this does the same thing as burning books. You're getting rid of information. You're limiting information. They only get to know what you tell them, and what you tell them is, we're alone. It's not safe. Stay here. Do what we say. Work for us. Make our food. Sacrifice your life.
Yeah, it's that same thing too. If you read something like the Communist Manifesto, or there are plenty of other things, just not that's the first thing that popped in my head, is like, control the education, you control the minds of the children, and therefore what you say goes. And once again, that's just not me bashing communists. There are plenty of other people who use the same exact principles to put their own points of view on children, to point their own points of view on the people, and then they can believe whatever you say because they're already predisposed to think what you want them to think.
Yeah, like Florida.
So true.
Keep it political.
And I think too, that's why part of just why this show is so good for like a sandbox, because there's so much room to explore all of these things in dealing with power and governments, and it's so universally applicable to just about any type of political system you want, right? To see, here's the problems with American democracy, here's the problem with communist China, etc., and where bad governments participate in bad stuff, and we get to see it on full display in Attack on Titan.
Yeah. The moral, I think, is that there should be no government.
Ooh, hot take.
So not Jaegerism, anarchism is the way, according to TJ.
Yeah.
Hot takes on our primarily political series.
Yeah.
I like it.
Soft anarchism, though.
So do you think no government at all, or just or a little bit of government?
No, still no government, but let's be reasonable about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The impossible. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So we find through the series, as Historia and Aaron both find about not only her origins, but his dad and how he tried to stop the actual king of the nation from staying in this isolation and letting the people just stay ignorant of the world out there. That whenever someone becomes the king, taking the powers of the founding titan, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Yes. When they, once again, cannibalism, have to kill the person who has the founding titan, then they become the leader. Even if you had this idealism within you, like we saw Historia's sister, whatever her name was, from before, like when she took on the founding titan's powers, she lost that because it was overwritten by the will of the first king, Fritz. Now, is this a metaphor for corruption of those who seek power? Or is there something else in this idea of you seek power, but then you're taken away by something else and you become something you never were before this moment in time?
Yeah. Well, I think it tries to make a point out of your perspective on things change, so your stance changes, because you get access to like all of that information that the first king has. I'm pretty sure with the founding titan, at least.
Yes.
Yeah. And then not only does it literally overpower you, but that would have to be a very compelling argument to like change your stance, is instantly becoming another person, literally, but still yourself.
You take on, I mean, they even said you take on their will. So it's almost like mind control, brainwash, if you will. Like you're still a little bit of you, but now you are like that person. And so, as TJ said, you see the whole picture, kind of like with leadership. Whenever you are an entry, even if you take church, for example, when you just attend the church, you can see everything that sucks. Why the heck are we doing this? When you start working with the church, why are we making these boneheaded decisions? But when you are leading the church, you see everything from a whole different perspective than the ones below. So I feel like that also, like, to have all that weight, and then also the psyche, they're probably going a little insane too. I would want to kill everyone too, personally, me.
A full kino on them.
Yeah.
I think too, like it's just an interesting, I think because we're in the 21st century and kingdoms and royalty are pretty, no one really believes in them really anymore, except for strange people in the United Kingdom. And I think that probably there's definitely this critique of like monarchy and inherited power, right? But that even things that we interpret as in like lineage and stuff, it had to begin somewhere. And I like that it started where it was like this girl had power and then it was commandeered basically by her dad, right? It's this classic like, I'm
her tribe.
Leave her tribe. Okay. And it's just, I think probably there's some subconscious probably critique of patriarchy there in a little bit, and just more of like anytime, even if it's negative power, like if a girl or a woman has it, some dude is going to come along and be like, that's mine. And I think that there's definitely some skepticism about monarchies in general, any type of power that's controlled in that way. And then of course, taking power that belongs rightly to women in this point in history of this made up world.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost like it's almost got like, yeah, no, our lineage is actually real. Like this is the person with the power.
Right.
Stolen.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the things we do learn along the way as we finally get tap into the history of the Eldian people, is how it all started with just this little slave girl Ymir, who, out of a mad love for the leader, her king, or of this chieftain of this tribe, I can't remember the exact title he had, starts an empire that he uses her and abuses her for his own ends, and even having children with her and enforcing those children to take her and eat her. And that's how the power of the Titan is spread over time into various forms until we get to the point where the Eldian Empire is taking over the entire world, basically, massacring people right and left if they don't listen to them. And then they start losing because people use it against them. They're able to take that power for themselves. And then King Fritz thinks, oh no, my people are all going to die out. Well, let me just make this deal where I stay over here and then I enforce my view on everyone else because I don't want to cause the mistakes of the past. And even someone like Frida was her name, who wants to change things, can't because she is overwritten by 2,000 years of history that says, no, do this instead. So even you want to fight against that, well, what kind of person could fight against 2,000 years of this metaphysical energy that's telling you, no, you should do things this way instead?
Yeah. Does anybody remember the significance of like how many Titan shifters there end up being? Because I feel like they said it
9?
and I don't remember. Because there are 9 of them.
I want to say it's 9.
Mm-hmm. It's 9. But I can't remember if
numerology-wise, I don't know if that has any meaning.
9 tribes of Israel.
Not even close to being true.
You know, Kingdom of Israel, there are 9 tribes.
9 ring rates, 9 members of the Fellowship, maybe an allusion to Tolkien.
I don't know. It's just like the numbers seem significant. It's like there are 9 of them. You get it. You live for 13 years. That's, I don't know, pretty specific.
If you guys know, listening, be sure to leave a comment and say, hey, this is what it actually means.
Yeah.
We're always happy to be corrected here.
Yeah. Any huge numerologists, please.
Now, 13 is kind of obvious, 13 being unlucky, but I don't know about 9.
Yeah, I did a quick Google search and nothing concrete came up.
All right, thank you.
Man,
Fact
I love
check
it when
Pam.
something's up for interpretation.
I mean, it has like mythology, like, but it doesn't say that's why. Just 9 represents so many things.
Now, what we see as time goes on, we realize Reiner, Bertolt, and Annie were from a different nation outside of the walls, sent here to infiltrate, Eldia and kill the people inside the walls. And they're actually a minority in a nation known as Marley. That is essentially the rest of the world is kind of almost at a World War I era of technology, as opposed to like the medieval steampunky nature of Paradise. And following this reveal of who they are, we learn about Marley and their eternal war of attempted genocide against Paradise for the actions of the past. Like, how do we feel about how this is handled in the show? And are there any insights we can glean from it?
I think it's handled really well because we get to see, like, it gives us enough time in between finding that out and finding out about the shifters to have turned on them, to like no longer like Reiner and Bertolt and Annie. And then like, oh no, they're victims too. They are also victims of this regime. They've been, taken control of. They are doing this so that they can live. And it just kind of, it's ambiguous. It's too gray for me. So I just choose a side.
Right. No, I did like them better because once you know someone's story, then you have empathy. You know what I mean? So now you understand the why, and they didn't really we learn about pretty much their tainted blood. So even across the sea and Marley, you see the hierarchy and the government conspiracy. They're pretty much in if you will, relating to Nazi Germany again, they're almost in a concentration camp. And so because they have tainted blood, the only way they can get any kind of status is if they work hard pretty much almost to death and are chosen to be one of the 9 Titans to be a military weapon. And so now, since we learned that, I like them a little bit more, but still, I'm like, you guys had the perfect, I know, I get it, they're brainwashed, but you had the perfect opportunity to start over and live your life, and you failed.
I do, like, it's a good metaphor. I just feel like it falls apart a teeny tiny bit because it is actually tainted blood. Like, no one else can turn into a Titan, just them. That's the only hole, though.
It's kind of that thing too. Sometimes mutants in X-Men kind of get used as oppressed figures throughout history, but not once have I ever met a gay person who could obliterate me with eye beams, or cause a disease to just show up on my flesh one day, or what other oppressed minority group. But at the end of the day, they still, in their own way, deserve to be represented. But it falls apart a little bit when you see a danger to humanity in that sense. Not that I would ever say be pro Orcus right now or pro Sentinel, but you understand what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the teeniest, tiniest bit. Like, it's still good metaphor. I think it needs to be out there. But, like, yeah, they can turn into giants.
But only by eating the other giant. Like, if they don't just turn on it for their will, they have to have the injection too, right?
Yeah.
But it can randomly go to any Eldian who exists if that person dies and they haven't been eaten.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big paranoid threats the Marleyans see too. So they always try and guarantee someone can be eaten to transfer the power. Sorry, Nick, you didn't get a chance to go.
No, this is good. I think that y'all know the lore a little better than I do in this part, because I was talking to Christian beforehand about how the jump to understanding Marley, as we see later, was very confusing when I first watched it, and I had to like rewatch season 3 and then kind of read stuff in between. So I think it's handled decently. I think one of the hard parts, because it's weird, because I'm normally like a big anti-hero kind of person and like to learn and empathize with villains, but because like everything about each character and the atrocities they commit, including Aaron, is so evil. Like, what, and it's understand, like, you look at the sociological and economical and geopolitical stuff that brought about World War II Germany post World War I, right? As this like economically collapsed, ravaged country with nothing to aspire to until some crazy person came up and gave them a bunch of ideas that they could believe in. And so I see this stuff and I think it's done really well, because I think it reflects how trauma and atrocities and tragedy motivates political strategies, micro and macro, to keep things in control for the protection. So it makes sense, but also I'm like all these political leaders, and it's weird because I'm also like a soft universalist. Like, I'm somebody who believes that eventually all will be saved because they're going to respond to God's grace at some point. But I'm like, these people all need to die. Like Aaron, execute them. Freaking the Marleyan leadership, die. The Fritzes, just go.
Yeah.
Just end it all.
Yeah, there are so few people. Well, not people, there are regular people in the show, but as far as named characters go, there are so few of them that aren't terrible.
Yeah. Armin and Mikasa, maybe they got issues,
yeah.
but I would lay my life on the line for both of those two.
No, but even Armin, he's like, Armin, go bomb the civilians in this area, and he's like,
true.
well, if I have to.
True.
Yeah. But there's a lot of gray morality in this series, which does enhance it to a bit, but can also in some way make people stop caring if it gets a little too bleak. There are some people I know that stopped reading and watching around this time because things got too gray for their own good, in their opinion. I think ultimately it works itself out, and there's still people you pull for that are more on the white side of morality versus, with seeing things in a black and white stance of the pure black is evil idea. And I think it works ultimately there. But anything else you guys want to add there?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like the most effective protagonist U-turn I think I've ever seen. Because Aaron really genuinely turns into someone you do not want to cheer for.
Yes.
To some people, not me. But you know.
Yeah, I was talking to Christian. I'm kind of I think it's effective. We hate him at the end, right? But I think that like it feels a little Daenerys Targaryen season 8 for me. And I'm just like, it happened a little too quickly. I feel like we could have spent a little more time seeing how Aaron got there. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to the
No, I
rumbling
wanted
in a
Aaron
second.
to win at the end too.
Oh my
It's like kill them
god.
all,
I'm ready.
kill them all.
Okay, wait, Nick, we were also talking about this. Would we find someone pure Aaron Jaegerist on their side, wanting to see genocide as the end of the series? We found her. Her name is Peng. She works at.
I'm married to a
No, I wouldn't
pastor.
do that to you. Yeah,
Leak our IP
I wouldn't do
address.
that to you.
No, I was just like,
Right.
hey, let's just kill them all. This because I understand his point. His thought is if we leave any, they're going to come back. History will always repeat itself. War will always be there. The only way we can have peace is if everyone else dies.
There are
Because
more countries though.
but he sent it out to
Yep,
the whole
yep.
world. He didn't just
Yeah,
send it out to
exactly.
Marley.
Time. We'll get to the rumbling. I swear,
Yeah.
we have time.
Rumbling.
Kill
Before we do
everyone.
that, we have other things we have to unpack. And now we kind of touched on it a little bit. Is that we see in Marley the treatment of the Eldian people is a very clear reference to the Holocaust. We see ghettos, we see them being treated as less than and murdered for no reason at all, or seen as inferior race compared to the Marleyan people. But overall, it's not a 1-to-1 because there are some differences there. And that when we look at the history of the show, well, the roles were reversed several thousand years ago, where the Eldians were the ones doing it to the Marleyans. And this just created this, as we did talk about earlier, this endless cycle of revenge and death. Like, how do we feel about how that changed the story itself, learning about this past?
Like I said earlier, no one here really deserves to win.
Yeah.
But should the
It's
people
just
of today be affected by the sins of their ancestors?
we are right now.
Are you Calvinist?
Maybe. No, I'm just talking about even if it's not even just the ancestor or spiritual, like look at our government, look at the economy. You can't tell me the economy is the way it is. It didn't get there
Yeah. I'm
because
still
of us.
paying.
It got there because of generations before us. So not even looking at a spiritual level, but look how the United States keeps on getting more and more into debt. Like it is because of the generation before us.
Yeah. I'm still paying for Ronald Reagan's sins.
Another hot take. Okay. Nick.
Kill us all.
Yeah, me and TJ, I won't jump on the Ronald Reagan hate but me and him could jump on the Ronald Reagan hate, I feel like. But there's other presidents we can hate on too, you know? Yeah, so most of them, almost all of them. Okay. Going back to fantasy world politics. I think that it's tough because like, yeah, the former generations, when we're born in whatever country we are, right, we're born into the political system not established by us or likely our families, but by generations of people part of different upper classes and things of that nature. I don't know. I think it's very interesting to explore like the cycle of revenge. And then swap places to do revenge again. It's like genocide, revenge. Haha, we flipped sides, and now it's time to perform a genocide and revenge again. And I just don't know if like you can reduce politics in the way that our world is to those two. And I think part of why I have a hard time with this show is that how bleakly it reduces the history of civilization. It's I'm not taking, it's not an allegory, right? But yeah, I just have a hard time with it. It's just so bleak, and I don't know if that's like there is right. There's only been like a collective of 13 years in recorded human history where there hasn't been a war, and usually it's related to some sort of xenophobia. But I'd like to think there's a little more hope and nuance in the world than just.
Yeah. I think the closest it gets is like, when people say, "Oh, the liberals used to be conservative, the conservatives used to be liberal." That's just like the way it works. Like the liberals come up with an idea that becomes normal, that becomes conservative The liberals are on something new, and the cycle keeps going. But that's not the same. That's just kind of what happens.
I think what happened here is author kind of wrote himself not necessarily into a corner, but with this series, the idea of this being an endless cycle of revenge and death. Well, how do I wrap things up? And I was
Reboot.
talking
By
with Nick about
killing
this
them
beforehand.
all.
Yeah, we'll get to that, Pang.
Just letting you
Impatient.
know.
In that sense of, well, how do we solve that now? Well, we kind of can't. Being that humans are humans, there is sin within us all. And no matter what, you can't deny the presence of sin in the world and people wanting to always look out for number one, which oftentimes is not you or me. I mean, because I know that's not always true of me, even though, like Jesus has changed my heart to the extent to actually care about other people and to might not be as misanthropic as I tend to be on my own. I can't trust everyone to do that. I can't even trust Christians to do that, let alone myself to do that all the time. So you get that bleakness of, well, it's never going to change. And, well, yeah, that's true without Jesus. So you have a series without him being a focal point here. Well, there is no real hope in that sense. But within the frames of the story, how do we solve it? And we'll get to that right now, as Pang has wanted to this entire time, by bringing up the good old rumbling. Oh, sorry. Wrong. The
Rumble.
rumbling. I forgot to
Let's get
switch my
ready
slide
to
there.
rumble.
All right.
Kill them all.
Goodness gracious. As the series finishes up, we deal with the repercussions of the rumbling. This being, for those who don't know, where a bunch of these massive titans are used by the attack titan, the founding titan, and pretty much all the other titans that Eren has assimilated and cannibalized into himself at this point in time, to then go out and massacre the entire world, that everyone who is not Eldian is going to die, because in his view, as time has gone on, as he's learned from the history of the founding titan and the attack titan, people never change. They're going to hate the alien people because we have this tainted blood in their eyes. So once we get rid of them, there'll be no more war. There'll be peace forever, which is a very idealistic way of looking at that and a very cynical way of also looking at it. We have to murder everyone in order for there to be peace. So what are our feelings on this global genocide being something that could have actually happened within this series?
I think he could have done a better job.
He could have been a better genocider?
Yeah.
Yes.
He could have done better.
He was a little sloppy.
Falco could have survived.
Mm.
Hmm.
You know,
That's our...
Pretty much it.
Go ahead.
But
Go ahead, Nick.
You know, it's not so much commenting on Eren's abilities to execute the rumbling, but just one of my I think just frustrations of where the show ended up leading to in the manga as well, is that not only does Eren also neuters like everyone against their will, right? The Eldians, right, can't have children anymore, which adds another level of like, you basically just committed genocide to everyone, not just people that you care about, but also now people can't have kids and they're going to die and what have you. But I think the cool thing about the show is that it splits. It makes society more complex over time. It starts off with this power of the slave girl Ymir. It splinters off. It creates all these problems. Societies develop, cultures develop, and things are very complex. And then it like reduces things to a bleak binary, which is either revenge, or I don't know, what's the other one? Death, I guess. And they both end up being the same thing. And it's like, man, what part of what I think, and I think it's very interesting, but I think that what made the show really good in the first 3 seasons, I feel like didn't really land the plane. What made the show good didn't really instill into the end of the series.
Yeah, I would ultimately agree as well. Like we mentioned several times, Nick and I was talking before we recorded, and I still don't know exactly where I feel about the ending, what I feel. But I do know that I enjoyed the journey getting up here a lot, to the point where I'm not going
Definitely.
to let that taint my
Yes.
feelings on the matter. So, like, frame of reference, I haven't updated this list in a bit, but I think Attack on Titan is my 69th favorite anime of all time, and I'm not just saying that to make a funny number. Yeah, thank you, Nick. Because I'd probably give it like an 8.5 out of 10, not to get to my rating and review out of the way here. But because of how he got here, the characters mean so much to me. The world building means so much to me. The history we learn means so much to me. And then we get to the rumbling, and I'm like, as I'm reading it month by month, as this is it's being released, it's like, am I supposed to be on his side? I hope not. And you get that bleakness that comes in. It's like, can this story literally end with an entire genocide? And am I supposed to be okay with that? How does this end? And providentially, we find out Aaron wasn't really hoping to win so much. He was hoping to have people come together from different nations, oppose him, and get rid of him, so where there could possibly be a peace that comes, because people did have to come together in order to make it. It's also kind of ruined by the fact that there's still that little centipede thing that gifted the Titan powers in the first place.
Yeah.
And there's always
And
a
he's
possibility this could happen again.
yeah, he's just too strong too. It's like if
Yeah.
Mikasa wasn't there, that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
so that sense of I know we are not supposed to say at the end of the day, unlike some of my fellows here, that we're supposed to be on Aaron's side, because that's a hollow way of looking at it. Well, if we just look at scripture, there were literally 4 people on the planet, and one had to murder another over something completely and utterly petty. And you expect, oh, well, if we just get rid of all the other nations, we're just going to be at peace, even if I, make sure no one can have children again. That's like a cynically optimistic way of looking at things. I don't know how to word that exactly. Like, it's not going to happen.
it was pretty funny though. Not this, just like Cain and Abel in general.
Yeah.
What am I, my brother's keeper? I don't know, man. Aren't you God?
Okay. It's just it was
Classic
weird that
Cain.
Aaron, classic Cain, dude, just pull classic Cain.
Oh, classic Cain.
It was weird that Aaron became a like worse version of Thanos. And it's just very strange. And then also too, like Mikasa kissing the severed head spine
gosh.
thing of Aaron, such a weird way to end that relationship. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
The only kissing scene I do not approve.
The only one.
that actually
only
fits
just
the
showing-
criteria of horror manga, horror
No,
anime.
yeah, it's pretty close.
Oh my gosh. Bang, you have anything you want to add?
No, I just feel like everyone sucks, so everyone should die.
See, I think though, if Aaron could find another way to make it happen, he would.
I agree
Yes.
with that.
And then not even like,
Yeah.
because go ahead.
Go ahead, Bang.
Well, because I don't even look at Jesus through. I know, like we try and like look how to put it in like a Christian spin and whatnot, but there is no Jesus in this anime whatsoever, at all.
Very much so.
So everyone should die. And if it was like that's not the Christian thing, I'm going to say we all deserve death, but we are saved by the blood of the Lamb, and there is no blood of the Lamb over there.
You didn't see Reiner sprinting around Wall Maria for like 3 weeks?
Okay, but the walls of Jericho did not come falling down.
How
Yeah,
do you know,
backup
Pang,
plan, he
that,
just ran into it.
Jesus didn't exist there, because we only really get the perspective of 2 countries and a couple of slightly other ones. Because if you actually look at the map of AOT, it's our world reverse. So this takes essentially on Madagascar upside down. And so there could easily be some Israel analog out there, Pang, where Jesus Christ has died for our sins, and he would have been just killed by the rumbling if you'd let this happen, Pang, in your anger. You struck
I mean,
down
he's
our
still
Lord and Savior.
either way he'll die for our sins and in the rumbling. So thank you, Jesus.
I'm not sure if that would count.
Who are you to decide?
Someone
Me.
make a fan fiction right now.
It
Jesus
probably
dying for the rumbling.
Oh,
Not
that's
from,
awesome.
but like
Sure.
in.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're off the rails. All right, you guys have anything else you want to bring up before we wrap things up?
Levi is one of my biggest anime crushes.
Yeah,
I mean,
Levi might be
he's-
the best character in this.
He's the total package. He's
5'2".
handsome. Yeah, he's 5'2". so he's travel size, obviously.
Excellent.
Very like
He's a hypochondriac.
yeah, he's careful. He loves to clean.
He's literally insane.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of my ideal anime like husbandos, honestly.
Okay, we're on the topic. Might as well go on. Everyone's husbando and or waifu. Go.
Levi Mikasa.
Oh,
think
we're
Annie
doing
fan.
pairings.
I like Annie.
Annie.
It's a good
I feel
one.
like they could have used
Yeah.
Annie a lot better too. Because like, oh, she's out of the crystal. Okay, and then what? The
I was
crystal's
so-
breaking.
Falls in
Okay.
love with Marvin.
I was so angry when Potato Girl died. I can't think of her name right now.
Sasha.
Aw, Sasha.
Sasha. I was like, that
word.
death got me. Like, I didn't really care about anyone dying, but when Sasha died, wow. I was so angry.
Mine was Astoria.
Good choice.
She's waifu.
Yeah,
Waifu.
I'd probably also have to go
So-
Levi though.
Mm-hmm.
Levi
So
and
good.
Annie.
If we have to choose husbando, I'd probably go Irwin.
Oh, Erin's a good one. He's
That
a
is
he's a
a good
sleeper. He
Sleeper hit.
sacrifices himself. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah,
I can
one of the
follow this
best
man.
speeches in modern anime, at least.
Oh yeah.
So
Better than
true.
Ronald Reagan
Okay, now that-
speeches.
Now that we got off the
Amen.
rails, we ended up on another track, went off of those rails. We are done with today's episode. Outside of the fact that we need to rate and review the show, kind of like I already gave him away. I'm kind of an 8.5 out of 10 overall. How about you guys?
I would say 7.5. I know, TJ. Because here's the thing, I loved it, but I hate how they did the final seasons in 4 parts. So that just made that.
That's true.
That made it lose a point. You know what I mean? It's like Attack on Titan final season. I'm like, this can't be the
They
end.
They're gonna milk
Part
you for all
4.
you're worth paying.
Yeah,
They
so
gotta
it would
release
have been
those
like an
DVDs,
8.5, but
Blu-rays.
literally they lost a point for that one.
Season 4, Part 1 for $50. Season 4, Part 2 for $50. And you gotta just keep making that money, paying.
It kept on like,
to them.
it's not even about the money for me. It's like I would think it's over because I don't read the manga, and I'm like, there's no way, because I'm not thinking there's going to be a part 4 of the final.
Well, read the manga.
Well,
Duh.
no.
He's held out for this long. She can keep waiting.
Yes.
And mad respect to the people out there who can, because I definitely couldn't.
Yeah,
Did you give your rating? Or TJ and you haven't given.
I have not. Probably. I feel bad giving anything less than a 9.
So is it a 9?
Yeah, it's gonna be a 9. But like, it's just done so well. At like through the build up to the rumbling itself. I'm not sure if there is better foreshadowing that I've ever seen in fiction, except for One Piece. That doesn't count. Goda is above all. Not fair to compare that. But yeah, I'd give it a 9. The story is so good for so long that it being, a sloppy-ish ending to some people is not enough to dissuade me from putting it in like my probably top 50, probably top 30.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nick?
I'm kind of, it's tough because I think as I've talked about it more, that I think that I dislike the last season more than when I started this episode, and it's not because it didn't ruin it. So I probably give it a 7.5, but it's tough because the writing is one of the best writing of an anime slash manga in the past like 20 years, I'd say. It's so good. The mysteries are great. The twists are great. The characters are nuanced. The world building is crazy good. The world war applications are excellent. But man, that it just feels like they did not stick the landing. Everything that made season 1 through 3 excellent, like I said, just reemphasize, they did not instill it into season 4. And then, of course, as Peng said, breaking it up into 4 parts for the anime is very strange.
It is hard to get past
All right.
that.
Well, with that, viewers and listeners, we are done
Wait.
with this episode of Primary. Oh, go ahead, TJ.
What's number 1, Christian?
Legend of the Galactic Heroes. If we're talking manga and anime, it's 20th Century Boys.
Levi is
And
number
you know what?
1
I'll
in
go
my
ahead.
heart.
Nerd.
I'll go ahead and make that my recommendation, since we're going to go there and segue. 20th Century Boys. I was talking with Nick earlier. My favorite manga of all time. It needs an anime desperately. It's a sin against humanity that it does not. If you want some intrigue, you want to go across different periods of time, not time travel, but like seeing perspectives from the 1960s and 70s, then the 2000s, then 2015, and so on. You got to get into 20th Century Boys with some of the greatest writing ever. Like Naoki Urasawa is the true goat of manga. Sorry, Oda, I love you, love One Piece, but you're just not can't hold a candle to him. So recommendations, people.
Bold words.
And we're going for hot takes. I had to give mine too.
I recommend slashing Christian's tires. If we all do it, no insurance company will take him.
We all get a tire, so we just need one more person.
No, everybody listening is going to slash a tire.
Oh.
Every time he gets a new one.
Being the basic anime bro that I am, that I basically just watch the mainstream anime and a couple here and there. It's like, this is everything that I like. This is the dream right here. I am seeing like the cage match of what it means, like anime people like wanting to kill each other over strong anime opinions, and I love it. So thanks for being that for me. Recommendation on my end, I think it's Halloween time, spooky season. I'm a big Rare fanboy, and so Grabbed by the Ghoulies. If you want Rare replay on whatever platform, download it, play Grabbed by the Ghoulies. Very fun game, very lighthearted, and very immature and filled with British humor.
Yeah. Play Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, the best Banjo-Kazooie game.
100%. This is superior to all Banjo-Kazooie games.
This is why I'm glad we don't have to do recommendations based on what we were talking about, because you could think of two very different franchises, Attack on Titan and Banjo-Kazooie.
No, I was being ironic, though. I could not let it go past. It can't escape my good conscience to not recommend Jujutsu Kaisen right now.
Okay. Oh, season or the manga?
The manga.
Oh, you know, you're probably reading the manga, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think if you haven't read a manga yet, this is a great place to start, because I can almost guarantee you will not make it till it's animated before you get spoiled.
I have.
Also, Dune Messiah. If you've read the first Dune book, go ahead and read the second one. I've got my Dune Messiah shirt on right now.
Well, dang, son.
Didn't know that existed until I saw it.
Taking it to the, best genre, the romance genre, I'm going to recommend Rent a Girlfriend.
Oh my god!
Because since we were talking about waifu, hey, it's in Japan, okay? Like, this is normal. So it's pretty much he rents a girlfriend to pretty much, classic love story, need to impress his parents or whatnot, and they end up, they might end up crushing on each other a little bit. There might be a little bit of fan service, but it's okay. Go watch it.
Rent a Girlfriend, you can listen to the episode of Manga Mustard that James and I did, where he covered a recent chapter at that time.
Oh, really? Proud of James.
And with that, listeners, thank you for everything that you do. Please, if you have a chance to leave a 5-star review in your podcasting platform of choice, leave a like here, a comment on YouTube, which you can head to and subscribe to as well. Also, we need help on Patreon and Captivate just to help keep the lights on, help keep things work very, very well. Because podcasting be expensive sometimes. And, we can't all be like Joshua and, just keep going. Like, it's always so sad. Poor Joshua, like his bank account drains every day without having access to money that helps the podcast flow. It's a very sad state of affairs. But you know what? We're going to do it with your help. If you can, don't feel obligated. I'm not trying to guilt you into it, but
I am.
Joshua is starving. He just can't make it in this world without your help. But with all that, remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.